Hello and welcome to Elevated and Meaningful. I am Sav Misagyan. Last time I made a video about Moses. Before Moses, I think it was Abraham. This, of course, has to do with Abdu'l-Baha, his book called Some Answered Questions, the revised version. Today I'm gonna now look at Jesus Christ. What did Abdu'l-Baha have to say about Jesus Christ and his mission and his life and his purpose and what he accomplished? It's very revealing to me to read from a Baha'i standpoint about other prophets. I know we live in a world of contention, a lot of division. We all think that religions are supposed to be separate, supposed to have their own quarters, exclusive. That's how it has appeared to look like by people, because of different cultures, different times, language, tradition. So people, those who are used to seeing their own kind, their own personality, their own ideas being, developed and fostered within a close quarter we call religion, And I think in the Baha'i perspective, all religions are in reality one. They taught the same truth, but they've come in different times. So let's look at what Jesus how Abdu'l-Baha looks at Jesus Christ in here. So I'll go ahead and read and then give a little bit of a narrative of my own. So here Abdu'l-Baha starts by saying, afterwards, Christ appeared saying, I am born of the Holy Spirit. If it is easy today among Christians to acknowledge the truth of this claim, at the time it was very difficult. Thus, according to the text of the Gospel, the Pharisees said, is this not the son of Joseph of Nazareth, whom we know? How then can he say, I have come down from heaven? Briefly, this man, who appeared lowly in the eyes of all, arose nonetheless with such power as to abrogate a 1500-year-old dispensation, notwithstanding that the least deviation from its laws would expose the offender to grave danger and bring about his death and annihilation. Moreover, in the time of Christ, the general morals and manners of the Israelites had become entirely confused and corrupted, and Israel had fallen into a state of utmost degradation, misery, and bondage. At one time they fell captive to the Chaldeans and the Persians. At another they were under the yoke of the Assyrian Empire. One day they became the subjects and vassals of the Greeks. Another, they were subjected and humiliated by the Romans. This young man, Christ, through an extraordinary power, abrogated the ancient Mosaic law and undertook to reform the morals of the people. He once again laid the foundation of eternal honor for the Israelites. Nay, he undertook to rehabilitate the fortunes of the entire human race and spread abroad teachings that were not reserved for Israel alone, but formed the basis for the universal happiness of human society. The first to arise to destroy him were the Israelites, his own people and kindred, and to outward seeming they indeed overcame him and reduced him to utter abasement, till at last they crowned him with the crown of thorns and crucified him. But this man, while outwardly immersed in deepest affliction, proclaimed, this sun will rise, this light will shine resplendent, my grace will encompass the world, and all mine enemies will be confounded. And even as he spoke, so it came to pass. For all the kings of the earth were unable to resist him. Nay, all their standards were cast down, while the standard of that wronged one was raised to the loftiest heights. Is this at all possible in accordance with the rules of human reason? No, by God. Then it is clear and evident that this glorious being was a true educator of the world of humanity, and that he was aided and assisted by a divine power. So I want to add to this. Obviously, it's clear that when we look at Jesus Christ, we could see how his glory has shed abroad the entire planet. Just by knowing, Christianity is one of the, largest faiths in the world, next to Islam, next to other religions. So, one can analyze and see how Jesus' life was so humble and lowly. He didn't have a castle, like a physical castle, or a physical empire of his own, where he had subjects that he told what to do like a king does. We look at a king and we look at the glory of the king and everything that they have and what the power that they can exert on their subjects and their people. We contrast that with the life of Jesus Christ, a prophet from God, a son of man. We look at how his life, he had a humble life. His 12 disciples were humble. They were humble, lowly beings. They didn't own properties or big houses and stuff. And so we look at this and we contrast it with a king, and we realize that we even today we can be dumbfounded by how a life so lowly was, but Jesus had the dominion and sovereignty that was from another world, a heavenly realm, not the sovereignty and glory of the physical world. You know what I mean? Like, we look at a king, we see physical sovereignty. We look at a lowly manifestation of God like Jesus Christ, someone who God sent, who was the mouthpiece of God, who educated humanity through the voice of God. We look at him, we see how humble he is, but look at him. Even they killed him, they crucified him, they laughed him to scorn, they humiliated him, they annihilated him. But look at his teachings. Look at it. It's dumb. You just think about that. Look at how even he was annihilated and crucified. His kingdom, his teachings, the 4 gospels were preached all the 4 corners of the earth. That shows you that, that's one assessment we can make about whether, someone who says I am from God, whether they speak the truth. Even Jesus said, judge them by their fruits. If someone is a true Christian, you can judge that person by the fruits that they produce. So it's not enough just to go to church and then go about your life the next day as any conformist, but that there is a true spiritual transformation within one's life when they confess faith in God, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Islam or Baha'i Faith. We have to have an internal introspective analysis that we have to do within ourselves, by ourselves. No one can tell us that we are saved. We have to find that within us and have that connection with God, that original connection, sincere, genuine. No one can say, no one has ownership. No one, not even the pastor or priest or clergy. No one, not even the Pope has authority between my connection with God. So that assessment has to occur, that introspection has to happen within my own individual volition and action, within my own spiritual thirst, within my own prayers and desires that I ask to God, please help me have a connection with you. No one can do that for you. That's, Christ talks about the second birth. We have a physical birth and we have to have a spiritual birth in this life. before we die. So all these things has to become understood by an individual person. And we have to see that, someone as great as Jesus was absolutely from God. Maybe in the beginning, we don't see that. We say, that's what Abdu'l-Baha is saying here. People were, judging him. Is this, like, how can he say he was born of the Spirit? Obviously, he had a physical birth. He's not a spiritual person. That's what they were saying, They were saying, this guy is claiming something from God. He's saying he's the Messiah. But look at him. He has nothing. He is a blasphemist. He is, they ridiculed him. But it was only a matter of time that Jesus' powers, his spiritual, eternal sovereignty was manifest in the world. It took many, many, many centuries. It took thousands of years, And we see that this is how we know. In the beginning, like right now, even with the Baha'i Faith, people might say, oh, unity of humanity, oneness of humanity, one religion. Religions can't be one. There's stark contrast between Christianity and Islam. There's stark contrast between Judaism and Buddhism, And so people start to have this exact same quarrels that they had about Jesus some 2,000 years ago. That he wasn't real. That he was a lying blasphemist, an imposter, a fake prophet or something. Those were what he was accused of. He was charged with those criticisms by then, those people. So today we look at Baha'i teachings about unity, about there's only one God, truth is one religion, the fact that all religions are from one God, and we say, yeah, right. People who are doubters, they say, yeah, right. This Christianity is the only way. Islam is the only way. There can't be no continuity between all these teachings. There can't be really. You can't say there is one God. There's my God and then there's your God. Our gods don't converge. You see, that's how we talk today, unfortunately. But I don't think Christ intended that. I don't think Christ intended his followers, even to this day, would have these illusions of what separates us. Nothing separates us. We're one human race. We're on this planet to learn how to live together. Different cultures, different languages, different ideas to converge into one idea, into one action, toward the end that we work together to build the world anew, to come up with standards that suits diversity of voices and ideas and people and lifestyles. The question is, how amidst all of this differences, how can we converge into one is the question we must ask ourselves. At what point are we going to realize how important it is that we need to come together, whether we like it or not, coming together and having real discussions about the betterment of our communities at the grassroots level? These are the questions we must ask ourselves. It's not easy. But the question I have is, how was Christianity built? Again, it started off very nascent, very small, very obscure. The power of Jesus Christ's message was obscure for many years. But because it was born from God, no power of earth and heaven can stop the growth of the teachings of God. So it grew. How? People were inspired. Jesus inspired hearts. The allegories, the symbols, the teachings, the stories, the wisdom of the Bible took precedence in society. It became a standard for many centuries. Many centuries. And it still is to this day. And so Abdu'l-Baha is telling us this. and next we're gonna look at Muhammad.